I think at this point in time, I'm prepared to say that the legendary tier Italian cruiser Napoli is one of, if not the best cruisers at legendary tier, and it got better in the May 2026 update. Only one thing was changed. I suppose you could call it a buff, but really it was more of a reworking of the consumables. In that third consumable slot, you'll see we've got the enhanced secondary targeting consumable, just a conventional one, and we have 5 of them. I think that might be partially because of our build. We're using Azurlane Vittorio Veneto with a full secondary build, Hipper and Haruna as the inspirations. And I believe one of these skills, the secondary interest legendary skill, gives us another enhanced secondary targeting consumable. So I think there's 4 base. We have 5 in this battle. And that was the change there. Previously, before the May 2026 update, the only consumable you could have in that third slot is the fighter plane, which is not totally useless if you have the IJN Warhammer 40k commander Arthas. You can put him as an inspiration on any ship with a fighter plane, and then when the fighter plane's in the air, it makes the damage output of the main battery guns increase by 20% for the duration of its flight. That wouldn't be useless on Napoli, of course, because it does have very good main battery guns, as you'll see in this battle. But it also, I think, has the most accurate SAP secondaries in the game. And of course, the enhanced secondary targeting consumable improves the accuracy parameters. The regular one increases the sigma by 100% and reduces the dispersion by 50. And if we look at the base numbers on Napoli's secondaries, influenced only by the Azurlane Veneto build, we'll see dispersion numbers that I think are better than any secondaries in the game. I'm not 100% sure on that, but let me just tell you, the median range vertical dispersion on these secondaries is 31.8 meters. And max range is only 63. That's like a 30-meter difference between the median and the max ranges. I don't think there's any secondaries in the game that have those parameters. I mean, just for the sake of example, if we look at Colombo, which is also a legendary tier Italian ship, albeit a battleship, and shoots SAP secondaries like the Napoli, the median range dispersion is like 134 meters, and the max range is 268. Now, I realize that's a battleship compared to a cruiser, of course, but I think if you look at any of the secondary specs in this game, you're not going to find too many that have numbers for the dispersion as small as Napoli's. Now, the Sigma is only 1.2 base, but when you look at these secondaries and how they hit targets, I mean, you saw them there with our first kill against that Dutch cruiser. We got 63 hits in the span of a couple of seconds. I'm not sure there's too many ships in the game that could compete with that. And of course, the enhanced secondary targeting consumable is just going to improve their performance overall whenever you have it active. And you can have it active up to 5 times a match if you've got Azurlane Vittorio Veneto. Not to mention the main battery guns. You see there, they do good work against the slightly angled enemy Napoli. These are 9 254mm guns, pretty large by heavy cruiser standards, and they can even overmatch, I believe, the super light cruisers like the Minotaur, for example, or maybe the Brisbane. Not 100% sure on that, but you get a broadside of any cruiser. And, well, notice this blessed matchmaking. There's only one battleship on the enemy team. The rest of them are cruisers. And we've sunk one in the form of that Dutch cruiser. Blue team's just lost one of their own cruisers. And things are gonna, I think, start going a little bit south for the blue team, at least to begin with. By the way, this match was the very first match I played on my Saturday stream. So you might have seen it already if you were there tuning in, or if you watched the stream after the fact. But if you haven't seen this match, I don't know how I could ask for a better opening match in a stream. In fact, this is kind of cursed. When you get a result like this, at the start of a stream, it's all going to be downhill from there, and that stream was certainly Colbert. You don't want to expose your Citadel in that thing. It does have, 32mm armor plating everywhere, but you go broadside to a Napoli with those guns, 5 citadels, all of a sudden you're back to port. The enemy team has lost only 2 ships thus far, and we've sunk both. We've got our friend, the Napoli, here. He's, sort of in a pre-kited position, ready to get away. All of a sudden, the main battery guns are not quite as effective, landing 4 shells that ricochet. But here, with the secondary interest skill active, the consumable active, I mean, look at the secondaries. Look at the shell grouping and the dispersion there. They're so accurate. They have to be the most accurate in the game. I don't think they compare to too much else really. And Napoli, for his part, the enemy one, he's focused by me, by a couple cruisers behind me. He has to retreat behind the island. Everybody goes dark. He manages to land 2 of his Italian sea mines on our hull. Not ideal, don't like that, but defense out there inside the Bravo cap, reversing broadside to us. For once, the accuracy on these main battery guns and the results they yield do leave a little bit to be desired. Defense is still on a lot of HP. Think he's come to a complete stop, though. Probably going to start going forward. Another shot is out, and this one, I suppose, looks a little bit more promising. But I think he does just ever so slightly start to go forward, which throws off the aim. We get a citadel, not quite enough to sink him. We have lost 3 ships up until this point, although it looks like both defense and the enemy Yamato inside of that cap are well on their way back to port. And somehow, even though that Yamato's on really low health, both of our remaining battleship teammates are still alive for the moment. Looks like both of them may be broadside to Yamato. Can't quite tell if he's got shots on them, but of course we don't have shots on him. We might on defense here, though, as he comes around this rock, thinking perhaps that he's safe. He's not safe. The shells have clearance, and, well, there we go, our 3rd kill of the match. Meanwhile, enemy Napoli, kiting over to the map border in the J6 square or so. He's not going to have any impact on the outcome of this battle from that position. And since he's kiting out of the way of the objectives and the rest of the red team, there's no reason for us to pursue him. And thankfully, it looks like our 2 cruiser teammates that followed us to this flank had the same idea. Neither one of them are getting distracted by the kiting cruiser and pulled out of the battle. Always good to see that. Meanwhile, on the red team, we've got 3 cruisers left, of which the Napoli is 1, and 2 destroyers. And I think one of those destroyers just sunk our last remaining friendly destroyer, which was a Shimakaze. Not ideal. We are at a massive tactical disadvantage without having those things, but then again, we're mostly cruisers, which, cruisers are a little bit better suited to taking out enemy destroyers than battleships. And it just so happens that the 2 remaining cruisers are super light, one of which is the Minotaur. Well, actually, we wouldn't call Worcester super light. Minotaur we might. 4 more citadels to go with the ones that we got on the Colbert a little earlier. We're up to 10 now. And Minnow, looks like he's a smoke minnow. He's behind that rock, though, which should prevent him from launching torpedoes at us. And I suppose he didn't really angle there, so that's our 4th kill. However, he did deploy a smoke screen, which is currently concealing the Worcester, and I suspect something else, because it seems like more than just the Worcester shooting. And then we get the telltale signs of British torpedoes. Not minnow torpedoes, of course. There's no way he could have launched them from that position. The little rock there with the smoking wrecks right in front of the smoke screen would have prevented that. So that's got to be the enemy daring. And of course, we just continue to push closer to the smoke screen. Worcester, like every other ship, has a firing penalty, and we're able to see him. We don't get the kill, unfortunately. That would have been the Kraken. One of the retreating friendly battleships out there in the distance manages to sink the Worcester, which is fine. But obviously, there is still another ship in here, and it's got to be the Daring, judging by the rate of fire. There's no way that's the enemy Shimakaze. Although it was the enemy Shimakaze's torpedoes that we saw come out of the smokescreen to the left-hand side of this island. And this island here, I mean, it's useful in this context. We can put it between ourselves and the Daring, which is roughly right in front of us. He's not going to be able to torpedo us. And I think all the while, I can't remember, you might want to go back and listen to my live commentary on the stream to see if I was aware that this Shimakaze was also in here. In retrospect, I am. It was obvious those torpedoes came from him, and he gets the honor of giving us the Kraken Unleashed. There's 5 kills, 172,000 damage, and the Kraken medal goes along with the First Blood, the Devastating Strike, and the High Caliber. There's a couple other medals I suppose we could get, but now we are safely ahead of the enemy team on points for, I believe, the first time in this battle. There's Daring. He was in the smoke screen, retreating now. Even the secondaries, I think, well, no, maybe they don't get any hits on him as he goes behind the island and goes dark. He resets us momentarily, but that's not going to stop us from securing this cap, and as soon as we do, well, we haven't heard from the enemy Napoli in quite a while. I don't know exactly what happened to him or what he's doing, but as far as we can tell, he's still nowhere near the objectives. Daring is, and I think it's the Daring that we're going to have to take care of at this point. We don't have sonar or anything like that. We don't really have any utility that would help us deal with the Daring. We just have our secondaries and our main battery guns, which I think we ought to be switching to HE at this point, considering the Daring is almost certainly the only thing that we're going to be shooting at. And I assume at some point, before we actually spot him, I'm going to have that idea and switch to the proper shell. I think we've got one remaining cruiser left alive on our team as well, and he is coming along with us. Daring is, of course, launching torpedoes, using the British gimmick to single launch all of them as the Napoli gets into the Charlie cap. But I think as far as that's concerned, it's too little too late. We're ahead of the red team on points now, and I don't think there's any way they're overtaking us unless the Daring and the Napoli together can sink the rest of us. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. The Daring was spotted there. Not sure exactly how. Maybe he has bad concealment. But he smokes up, able to shoot at us because of the firing penalty. Or maybe he's left the smoke at this point now. But once again, on this map, it has all these little sandbars in the water. And these are great for preventing a destroyer directly in front of your face from torpedoing you. Good luck getting the torpedoes through these sandbars. And we go dark, suggesting the Daring is in the smoke screen, or was until he just exited it now. I don't think he's going to be able to do anything but hit us with his main battery guns. And we've got Howden Liu coming in, who I believe has at least sonar. Yeah, there it is. He activated it now. No radar, but the sonar will be helpful for advanced warning of torpedoes. And as Howden Liu comes closer, we're protected by the utility of his sonar. Meanwhile, enemy Napoli has succeeded in flipping the Charlie cap. I guess good for him. He'll be headed back in this direction. Looks like maybe one of the friendly battleships is aware of this fact and turned around. And there's the Daring. Torpedoes picked up by the Howden Liu sonar. Hopefully he's able to dodge those. And here you get another idea of just how accurate these secondaries are with this consumable. We don't even need the main battery guns to finish off the Daring. There's the Close Quarters Expert to go along with the 5 other medals we previously had, including the Confederate, which we, I think, must have gotten while shooting at the Daring. And so, now we have 6 kills. That just leaves our old friend, the enemy Napoli, who we met earlier on that Charlie flank and who we reduced to so little HP that he had to kite away to the map border. At this point, he's got to be coming toward us now, and there's still just over a minute left to go in the game. We're not in any danger of zeroing out the enemy team on points. I suppose you could say this has been a pretty competitive match up until this point, and maybe it could have gone either way. Seems like Napoli here did the lion's share of the work, though. This cruiser, it's just great. I think this is not the first time I've put up a 6-kill game in the Napoli on YouTube. This has to be at least the second, maybe even the third time. But I'll tell you one thing. I looked at my specs page before I started recording, and once you see the results screen, I'll just let you know that this is my personal highest XP record in the Napoli. I double-checked the specs page for that, and the number there matches exactly the XP we have at the end. Napoli spotted, and our teammates take him out. So we don't get a 7th kill, which I suppose is unfortunate, but no complaints from me. This battle I don't think could have gone any better, And the matchmaking was blessed, of course. It might not be quite this easy to walk into this many kills and this much damage if you're in matchmaking where there's a ton of battleships. It helps that there were a bunch of cruisers. 4,189 XP in the Napoli. That is my personal record there. And I think this ship is at the point where it's pretty cracked. It's got some of the best armor for any cruiser at the tier. It's got some of the best main battery guns. And now, with this enhanced secondary targeting consumable, its already excellent secondaries are just a little bit better whenever you need them to be. So if it's been a while since you played the Napoli, or if you don't have the ship, start the Bureau project and or take it out for a spin, because it is probably one of the most enjoyable ships at the tier. Hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.